Benjamin Netanyahu is known around the world as a media wizard, someone who feels extremely comfortable in front of a camera. But how did he get to be so savvy? And what is the reason for his relations with the media going downhill to the state where he rarely gives interviews these days? A new documentary, King Bibi, discusses all this and a lot more. I'm now very happy to be joined here in the studio by the director of the film, Dan Shadur. Dan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
So I want to start actually with the name because, of course, it reminds everybody of the, I think, 2012 Time cover where Bibi was plastered on the front page, King Bibi. But why did you choose the name for your film, King Bibi?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like the name chose the film rather than us choosing it. Like other things in the narrative of the film, as we tell it, it's very ambivalent. You can look at it at both ways. Some people think of the name as degrading. Some people think of it as glorifying.
What did you think of it?
I think both.
Okay.
I'm just the director.
You're just the director.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to make the movie to begin with?
I'm intrigued by this character. I realized a few years ago that there's quite a few things that I don't know about him. I wanted to tell his story. I was intrigued as an Israeli, as someone who doesn't vote for him and wants to learn more about him and why and the reasons for his success. And as a filmmaker, something about his character is intriguing, is fascinating.
You talk a lot throughout the film about his media capabilities. You really focus on that. And you refer to Lillian Wilder, this, shall I say, an acting coach? Is that maybe her title? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
And she taught a lot of, or she helped a lot of politicians in the swamp there in D.C. And she also helped Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm going to show a short snippet from the film that kind of gives us a taste of that. Let's have a look.
Public speaking is an art. Like any art, it requires dedication and practice. If you follow the 7-step program, you will taste the joys that fearless speaking can bring, the magic of getting a response, the pleasure of tapping your own creativity, the power of persuasion, the overwhelming rightness one feels when speaking with an objective and from conviction.
So you go back to her a lot throughout the movie. Is your message basically that, in a way, politics is one big act and that the best actor will always win?
Yeah, definitely. That's part of the message. The film is about Netanyahu, but it's also about what it is to be a politician these days, what is politics, how we are affected by these images, how we are affected by these messages, and do we have the power to oppose it or to think for ourselves?
Do you think he might have been one of her best students?
I think she thought so as well. She's an interesting story. She passed away quite a few years ago. She was a student of Lee Strasberg herself, so she was a student of the method.
Wow.
She recorded an audio book, 7 Steps to Fearless Speaking. It's a fascinating book. It's very long. There's a lot of methods there. And it's about how to connecting to your real self.
Yeah.
So what we're asking about Bibi throughout the film and throughout these tapes is he real? Does he mean what he say? Or is it all fake? You know, the people who oppose him thinks he's just having all these gimmicks. The people who believe him thinks he's real. I think it's a question that is...
Where do you stand on that?
It's an open question.
It's an open question.
Again, yes.
But you obviously knew that Netanyahu was very good with the media before you made the movie. What else did you learn about the man when you were making this that you didn't know about him beforehand?
I knew, generally speaking, that he was good with the media. I didn't know how thorough he was with it. I didn't know how serious he took this from a very early stages in his career. But there are other parts in the film that talk about his ideology, his political way. So there's other aspects to the documentary. But the way we look at it is through the media and through his, and through the performances.
Why does a man who understands the media so well and his capabilities versus the media have such a relationship with the Israeli media today, you know, where he accuses it of being unfair, of being biased, of not giving interviews, as I just mentioned before? Why do you think we reached that point?
Well, it's a complex question that the film tries to answer from different aspects. Some of it is biographical. I mean, it's part of his, it's part of his biography. It's like he comes from a right-wing family. His father was somewhat an outcast back in the days, and I think Bibi grew up with this notion, with this feeling. But when he came back from the U.S. in the 80s, because he started his career in the U.S., and another thing that the film touches is his American roots. I mean, how American he is, and when he comes back to Israel in the late 80s, I think the media already regards him as someone who's not really one of us, someone who's a little bit different.
That's a great segue to my next question, because I want to show you a clip from the movie of this, from a talk show, or it was on Friday nights in the 80s, called Sibalim Siba, or loose translation is Reason to Party. I used to watch that show here growing up diligently. Basically, everybody used to watch that show.
It's all we had.
It's all we had to watch, right?
All we had.
And this is the host, Rivka Michaeli, interviewing Benjamin Netanyahu in the late 80s when he was, I believe, ambassador to the UN, and he was visiting Israel, for vacation or something. Let's have a little listen.
You're a media star in the U.S.
I appear from time to time. That's part of the job.
How did you get your break?
There is no recipe for getting a break. You make one appearance, the American media is very cruel. If they don't like you, then you won't get a second appearance. But I think the key is not the gimmicks. You have to present your stand. If you believe in it and you speak the truth, it penetrates. People pay attention and they want to listen.
Do you always speak the truth?
I never knowingly lie. It's possible I may not say everything I know, but I will never lie.
So she asked the question that I basically asked you before, which you kind of didn't exactly answer. But let me, I think this interview is actually a really good example of maybe, I don't know, the arrogance or the suspicion maybe that a lot of the media showed Netanyahu almost from day one, isn't it?
I think so, yes. He came from the US. You have to go back to these days and remember like what was the politicians of these days. In another part, we saw Bibi next to Reagan and Shamir as prime minister. And you listen to Shamir speak English with this broken like Polish accent. And it's really amazing to think of how politicians spoke at the time. And Bibi is something completely new. And he's being dealt with a certain suspicion. I think it's interesting. So maybe he has a point though. Maybe he has a point that up until today that of course he has a point, but that was 30 years ago. Now
but it started then, didn't it?
It did start then, but I don't think it justifies what he's doing today when he's so powerful, when he can speak directly to the people. I think today things kind of turned around. I think today he knows that the conflict with the media serves him well with the voters. Yes, definitely.
So he uses it, he fuels it. Meaning that he enjoys this.
Definitely, yes.
For his own political gain.
Yeah, he instigates it sometimes. I mean, he makes it happen.
The elections are coming up in less than 3 months, on April 9th. What kind of Netanyahu do you expect to see in this campaign? Will it be different than any other Netanyahu we've seen? Will it be the same?
I think it's kind of funny for me to talk about it because I still don't regard myself as a political expert. But
not even an expert on Netanyahu after this?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I will answer.
Go ahead.
I think from 2015 something changed. I think he realized that he can do everything by himself. He's the scriptwriter, he's the director, he's the manager of his campaign. And I think that he's not, I think until 2015, to a certain degree, he tried to reach out to all the population. And I think right now he's going to reach out for his base. And I think the conflict with the media will only get worse.
So you think maybe like he feels like he is the ultimate campaigner, and in a way maybe he feels invincible? Or?
I don't know about invincible. The thought of him being the ultimate campaigner, I'm sure he thinks so, and rightly so. He is.
Yeah. Well, what kind of reactions, before we go, what kind of reactions did you get from the left side of the map and from the right side of the map, people who saw your movie?
This is pretty fascinating. It's important to note that the film is without any talking heads. There are no people that are being interviewed, so it's only archival footage. So I think the concept is like an open text for the film. So everyone sees the film through his own eyes. He sees what he wants to see here. So we have screenings in Cinematheques, and you have right-wing people and left-wing people, and everyone, the right-wing guy will say he's amazing, and the left-wing guy will say he's ruining our country, he's a fascist, he's a, blah, blah, blah. So there's very mixed reactions from both sides, and criticism from both sides.
Criticism, okay. It's not so just like everybody sees what they want to see, right? Or people actually learn a bit, on the left and on the right, they learn a bit something new there.
No, I think people who connect to the film, they learn a lot. They learn, from the left side, they suddenly see other faces of
that they didn't know about before. Yeah,
they didn't know, or they're not used to thinking about him that way. Especially from the early days. This interview that we just saw, I think this smile, the way he looks, the way he manages himself, you don't see it anymore.
All right, Dan Shadur.